Hi, today I'm going to work on the semantic representation phase 1 for verse 8 of 2 Kings chapter 5, continuing on in that chapter. I had some problems with my video recording, so I've done this 3 times. So because of that, I'm not going to go for this verse in as much detail or as slowly as I usually do. I'm just going to talk about the decisions that I made and do it rather quickly because I'm tired of this verse. Hopefully my video will work this time. So let's look in the English translations. So again, on the left I have NIV, I have International Children's Bible in the middle, and Easy English on the right. And let's read it in NIV, verse 8. When Elisha, the man of God, heard that the king of Israel had torn his robes, he sent him this message, in quotes, "Why have you torn your robes?" Okay, so this presentation has several problems. So the first is we're going to have to say who was the man of God. Secondly, this sentence has what we're going to have to break up into 3 parts. When Elisha, the man of God, heard that the king of Israel had torn his robes, we could say that with after. It wasn't when he heard, but after he heard. But it's going to be simpler if we separate that as a separate sentence. And then we're going to have a separate sentence for he sent them a message. And then whenever we quote something, we have to say that message said, or he said. So we're going to break this up into 3 sentences. And then finally, the question here, why have you torn your robes? That's what we call a rhetorical question. It's not really expecting an answer. So we're going to express it something like the Easy English. If you look over there, it says, "You did not have to tear your clothes." That's what he really means. So in the International Children's Bible, it says, Elisha, the man of God, heard that the king of Israel had torn his clothes. So he sent a message to the king. It said, "Why have you become so upset that you tore your clothes?" Let's look at Easy English. It says, Elisha, the man of God, heard that the king of Israel had torn his clothes. Then he sent to him this message. And then it doesn't introduce the quote with anything. It just starts it out as a separate sentence. We can't do that. You did not have to tear your clothes. Okay, so let's see what we did. Elisha, who was the man of God, heard, so you put it in brackets because it's a patient proposition, heard that the king of Israel tore that king's clothes. Then Elisha sent a message to that king. That message said, so see, we have to introduce a quote with something like this, something said, you, and we put who you is, we always have to indicate that, you not must tear the clothes of you. Now this is a little bit funny the way I said it. What I want is, I don't want to say must not. I want to make it a negative of have to. So you don't have to, is what I'm trying to say. Another possibility would say you do not need to. I'm going to prefer this other one, and I'll explain that in a moment. Okay, so let's look at, there are 2 issues here. Let's check that we have the right version of say, and then I want to explain what I'm going to do in the phase 2 with this not must. Probably that won't come out right in the phase 2 and we'll, with the analyzer, and we'll have to correct it. Okay, so I've already gone to ontology and lexicon, ontology, selected events, and I've already got it here at the S's. So you can see that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 senses of say. I'm not really sure why the fourth and the sixth are different. Therefore, a law or a command. It looks like the one we want is the fifth sense. It's not a person talking. It says a book or a text says something. So we're going to say the message says something. So that's pretty close. So that's what we'll use. We don't know if it's an oral message or a written message, but I'm still going to use that sense. Okay, and then the other issue I wanted to point out is what I'm trying to do with that not must. So I went into utilities, proposition analysis, and then I just want to click on a verb here. So at the bottom right we have all these buttons. I'm going to click on features, and then I'm going to click on the first verb I come to just to show you the features for a verb. So I'm going to click on read here. Not that I want to change this, but just to show you. And what I want is this, in the third column it has mood, and then you go down to must. So that's what I'm aiming for, not must or not have to. You do not have to. And then I'm going to, on the fifth column, you have polarity and it'll be negative. So not, you don't have to, is what I'm trying to say. That's different from the forbidden obligation, which you be must not, which means you can't do that. You do not have to is a little bit different than must not. You have to not do something. Slight distinction there. Okay, so that's how I did that sentence. Okay, so let's look again in the easy English translations. Going back to here, we have the man come to me, and he will know that there is a prophet in Israel. Oh, I forgot one thing I wanted to mention, so I'm going to go back to that. Robes is a complex concept in TBTA. We can see that by going to ontology and lexicon, the upper left menu item, ontology, nouns. Then in the drop-down letter, I'm going to select S because RO is close to S. Then one up arrow, and I see robe is a magenta term, so that's complex. So the way we're going to handle that here is we're going to pair robes as a complex concept with clothes. Okay, let's go back to the English translations. Have the man come to me, and he will know that there is a prophet in Israel. We're going to have to explicate prophet, write that out in more simple terms. Our explication for prophet, I can show you that. We go to the explications document, and prophet, you can see down here at the bottom of this page, a person who tells God's messages to people. And it has to be people generic, because if we're describing the people that he's telling the messages to, we probably need to keep that information. But for generic people, it's good enough to say he's a prophet. Okay, so let's go to the International Children's Bible. Let Naaman come to me, then he will know there's a prophet in Israel. That's pretty good, and actually this might be better to say Naaman, but I'm going to keep it more literal. Let the man come to me. And then, but this would be satisfactory to say Naaman. It's actually more clear. But it's not clear that Elisha knew the name of Naaman, so I'm going to keep it the man. In the Easy English it says, cause the man from Aram to come to me. That probably would be okay too. Then he will know that there is a prophet in Israel. Probably more likely that Elisha knew that it was a man from Aram. But I'm going to just say the man. So what I did, I expressed this as an imperative. So you do that by putting in parentheses IMP. You, king, imperative, send the man to me. Then that man will know that a person, in brackets, who tells God's messages to people is in Israel. So it's pretty much like those translations that we were just looking at. I decided to go with the more literal, like in the NIV, the man. And we had to explicate prophet, as you see here, person who tells God's messages to people. Okay, so